Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Strata's Orchestration Kitchen. Today, we'll be talking about protecting homegrown apps with modern authentication. I'll be your host, Chef Callahan. I'm on the product marketing team here at Strata, and I'm actually joined by Chef Kozard, who is heading up our solutions engineering team at Strata as well. So as we think about homegrown applications, it's timely this time of year because we're thinking about recipes that maybe an older one that we don't necessarily know about, grandma's favorite pie recipe that we just keep reusing over and over. But as we think about homegrown apps, let's maybe set the stage a little bit if we could, Chef Terry. So a homegrown app is really just a custom application or an application created in-house for a particular line of business, yeah?
That's exactly right. And it could have been written 10 years ago, 15 years ago, could be written today. We offer you some really great, advantageous ways to better protect those applications, regardless of when they were built.
Great, great. So let's take a look at the agenda. So as we do with every episode of the Orchestration Kitchen, we're going to set the stage a little bit by giving everyone a feel for what identity orchestration is. What we're going to be talking about today is really predicated on this foundational technology. And so we want to make sure that everyone understands that. So Chef Terry, I'm going to have you do just a quick 2-minute overview of what identity orchestration is. Next, we'll go into the recipe whiteboard. And just like any good cooking show, we're going to show you the ingredients and we're going to explain what it is that we're going to be doing. But also, like any good cooking show, we don't want to just say that we're going to do it. We want to show that we're going to do this. So then we're going to jump right into things and we're going to cook with that recipe. And finally, we have open Q&A at the end for anyone who has questions throughout. And speaking of questions throughout, please feel free to submit those to Chef Terry and myself throughout. There's a question button that you'll see on your screen, and you can certainly provide those to us. If they come up during the course of our conversation, we'll address it then, or we'll save it for the end. But without further ado, Chef Terry, can I give you the floor and give us a little bit of an overview of what identity orchestration is?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Identity orchestration really is at its foundation a really revolutionary new way to protect applications, be those new or old applications. But the central idea is that you can abstract away all of the common identity related services. This could be ways to authenticate to your application. You can modernize that for current IDP or use passkeys or whatever that may be. But it doesn't just stop there. It also allows you to increase or add access controls, multi-factor authentication. You can go grab attributes at runtime from where they naturally want to live, so you don't have to synchronize everything into your directory or wherever it needs to be. Other things that we can do is for organizations that have leveraged centralized authorization engines, things like OPA or Axiomatics, Plain ID, Amazon verified permissions, these types of things. You want to move in that direction. But the challenge there is applications that were written prior to these kind of capabilities being out there just don't know how to talk to it. Well, the Fabric gives you the ability to do all of those things. But really, the secret sauce from our perspective is that whatever application we're protecting, we then do the last millimeter integration to where the application doesn't need to know about all the things that we're abstracting away. It just needs to know that it's got an authenticated, authorized user, and we do all the heavy lifting to make sure that we're authenticating, stepping up authentication, getting all the authorization decisions correct based on your policies. So we do all the heavy lifting so the application can just continue to serve its function as it always has.
I love the reference to the secret sauce. Brings it back to the kitchen every time as we talk about what we're going to be doing with this recipe. So we've got this homegrown app, and as you pointed out, it's really just a custom application. It's not a commercial app. It's one that you've created in-house for a particular line of business. It could be 10 years old. It could be 15 years old. It could be 15 months old. And as we're thinking about this, I actually want our audience to think about this a little bit as well, because oftentimes when you speak to somebody about their application library, they speak to the known applications. Is there a chance that some of these homegrown apps might be hiding in the back of the pantry? It's that can of cranberry jelly that you haven't touched in 3 years?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually really common. It's very common when we talk to organizations and say, tell us about the applications that are harder to reach. And they say, well, we've got 100% of our applications being served by our identity provider. And then you tease it apart a little more and find out that no, there's actually several applications, many in fact, where it just doesn't play easily in those ecosystems. So once you start looking beyond just your own little things that you can touch, I would be surprised in any kind of complex organization where there aren't certainly some of these, if not many of these.
Got it. Got it. Well, what I love also is we've got a little surprise for our audience. We're actually going to do a twofer recipe-wise today, because there's a couple of ways that you may want to protect an app, and I think you're going to speak to even more. We talk about these apps that people may not know about. So thinking about cyber insurance, I know that's top of mind for a lot of folks as they're thinking about ransomware and other things. To get cyber insurance coverage, you need to have demonstrated that you've got MFA, phishing resistant MFA, across 100% of your apps. And as you pointed out, you may say all 100% are protected, but it's only the ones you know of. There may be these others that we don't know about. So in today's kitchen, we're going to talk about adding MFA, if I'm right, to the Homegrown app. That's
yeah,
great.
We're going to do actually two different variants of the recipe, given this is a quick and show. The first time, we're going to leave the login experience as it is currently for a legacy application, and we're just going to overlay MFA without rewriting the application at all. And then I'm going to switch to a slightly different set of ingredients, and we're going to protect the exact same application, but we're going to use a modern IDP for it. So it's kind of a 2-for-1 show today.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Well, we always joke about, we don't want to bury the lead. We talked about that last millimeter, the magic that's really happening. Let's go ahead and take a look at the whiteboards of what we're going to be talking about today. And I want to reinforce something that you shared, which was we aren't touching the application's code. This is the application is none the wiser to the work that we're going to be doing today.
That's exactly right. That's actually one of the value propositions that Strata brings to the place, is that you can now modernize these applications without, in many cases, touching them at all. And if certainly we're not going to change any code or things like that, because that takes a lot of time and effort and energy. And frankly, most of our customers, all of our customers, in fact, would rather innovate rather than retire all that tech debt from however long it's been there.
Can't blame them. Well, tell us what we're looking at here as we look at the whiteboard.
Yeah, absolutely. So for legacy-based applications, oftentimes the user is going to try to start from the left, and they're going to go to the legacy application in the upper right. So what we do is we will set the orchestrator somewhere in line of that. So we see all the traffic, we protect all the traffic, and we can either be upstream in the network, we could be on the web host, doesn't really matter from our perspective. We're intentionally very flexible about these things. But by putting the orchestrator there, you now have tremendous flexibility to do all of the abstraction stuff that I talked about in the earlier slides in the intro. Now we can change how it authenticates. Now we can change how we do MFA. Now we can change anything along that user journey that is important to you. So in this case, the orchestrator, here in the light green here, is going to intercept traffic and say, gosh, well, in the first recipe, they're going to say, we're just going to let all the traffic into the application so that the user can log in. But then once we determine that the application has logged in that user, now we're going to jump in and we're going to say, hey, we're now going to overlay multi-factor authentication on top of it. The application doesn't know this is happening. This is just something that we do natively and very easily. We're going to call for that recipe Twilio in order to generate a one-time passcode. And we're going to then call Twilio again to validate that the code is exactly correct. Then I'm going to pivot the entire ecosystem, and we're going to say same application, same everything, but this time rather than just the MFA, I'm going to change the login experience completely. The user isn't going to have to put in that username and password as they historically have. Now they're just going to log into Okta as they generally would, and then we're going to allow single sign-on into the application. So it really depends on what is the important use case that you're trying to solve as an organization. We can almost always solve it in multiple different ways. It's just a matter of how do we best meet your needs, your ecosystem, those kinds of things.
I love that we brought a secret ingredient here. And if we talk about secret ingredient, we're also talking about the key ingredient, which is that delicious teal orchestrator in the middle of this diagram, because that's what's making all this possible as we think through this. And I think it's really important to also point out, excuse me, one thing that you just shared was, as we think about the SSO and using the modern IDP to protect it, as we think about homegrown applications, these are the ones that oftentimes somebody in some department, could be a rarely used line of business type application where they're using a username and password still when the rest of their organization, every other app is protected by Okta or Ping or Entra ID. And yet this is one of those ones that still has that one-off login access path that they go through. And what you're suggesting is we could just make that seamless on that side as well. So we're making it seamless for the app, we're making it seamless for the user. Everyone wins.
That's exactly right. So that's how we think of the world, is that we want to be the easy button for these really hard to reach applications. Because for those applications that truly are easy, they're already in Ping, they're already in Okta, they're already in whatever you prefer as your primary identity provider. But now for all those dust bunny applications that have been around and poorly cared for, now we can make them full class citizens in your organization.
That's great. Well, let's go ahead and press on that easy button and take us into the kitchen.
All right. So what I'm going to show you here is this is a legacy-based application that we have used here. As you can see, it has its own native login form. So the user is going to be prompted for their username and password so that they can go ahead and take advantage of all of these things. So I've got all of this working. So what's going on now? The user successfully logs in. Now, although the look and feel looks very similar, in reality, what's happening here is the orchestrator was just sitting there passively watching for successful authentications. Once we determine that the user successfully was authenticated into the application, then we step into the equation here. And the screen you're seeing here is actually the orchestrator that's actually doing this, presenting this screen. We think of it as an interstitial screen. So the orchestrator knows that we've got an authenticated user. We know the username. So what we did is we went ahead and called the Twilio APIs. Twilio then sent me a one-time passcode to my email or phone or whatever mechanism that is important for your organization. And now I can go ahead and put in that code. Now the orchestrator is doing all this work at this point. So we go in, validate that the user is indeed who they say they are, and lo and behold, they're into the application. They don't know the world's changed. The application doesn't know the world's changed, but now you can satisfy those cybersecurity insurance needs without changing the application. You can do this in minutes. It can be that simple for many, many organizations.
That was a great bit of magic there. And as with every identity demo, it's always a bit anticlimactic because it just works and it just happens. But I think you called out something that's really important for our audience to know, which was as they looked at that, they thought, well, wait a minute, there's a front end screen change that took place. And you talked about that actually being an interstitial that just happened to match the styling of the page that we hosted on the orchestrator. So we truly did not touch the application in any way, whether it was the web front end or the back end code. We handled all that through the orchestrator.
That's exactly right. We just pause the user interaction to the application until they satisfy their MFA, and then the application is none the wiser that any of this took place. But your auditors sure are, and your cybersecurity insurance rates will either stabilize or even potentially go down based on all of this. So it really can be that simple.
And so any concerns about latency, or we talked about a lot of steps happening in that process, and we talked through it, of course, this could have been instantaneous.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, as we're doing all these things, it really is instantaneous. The only thing that there's a pause for is when we're waiting for the user to put the code in or to press the button on your phone or whatever it is. In this recipe, we picked on Twilio as our way to do multi-factor, but it really could be anything. It could be using the native authentication into your identity provider. It could be using Duo, RSA. We really don't care. It doesn't matter. But when we're actually validating code or generating a code or those kinds of things, it's near instantaneous. We're designed to be very, very high performant.
I was about to ask you, high performance. So we're expecting a lot of people for dinner. Let's say there's thousands of users that are trying to concurrently log into this. Again, no scale issues there either.
None at all. We are intentionally and thoughtfully built to have extreme low latency and extreme high throughput. So one of the things that we can do is, even for modern applications and modern ecosystems, we can make it better. We can get higher levels of SLAs for you than any of your identity providers or any of your identity ecosystem members can give you. That's one of the secondary benefits of going with an identity orchestration.
Love it. It's like umami for your existing recipes. And as we think about recipes, I guess that's our MFA example here. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. So now what I'd love to segue into, same application, but I've changed the configuration of the orchestration just that quick. It really can be that fast. So I'm just going to create a new browser, and we're going to go to the exact same application. But this time, the orchestrator is saying, in order to get here, you have to go to Okta. You have to go to Entra. You have to go to wherever. I'm going to pick on Okta today. And now, again, the application has no earthly idea that anything has changed around it. But now we let the user go into the application by bypassing that traditional login screen that we saw in the first part of the recipe. And so now, if you wanted to use the Okta Authenticator or Okta Verify, now you have the ability to get that same capability along with a single sign-on experience to all the other applications that are important to you. So it doesn't matter from our perspective which of these use cases are important to you. What matters is that you can easily modernize these applications, even for the applications that you built in-house.
I love it. And so what we were just experiencing there, chances are that Alan would have already logged in using Okta for other applications, because that's used for 99% of the apps elsewhere in his workday. And he wouldn't even have seen this because the SSO would have been so seamless to that end. He would be able to do away with that Post-it note that's stuck to his screen for this one-off homegrown application.
That's exactly right. And that's one of the other benefits of single sign-on and how we can extend the reach to our customers, is that you can even get these dust bunny type applications to be those first-class citizens that we talked about.
That sounds like a great security win right there. And that application, do we care if it is a web app or if it's on-prem? It's able to protect them?
Well, yeah, we do protect web apps, but we don't care if it's on-prem. We don't care if it's in the cloud. We don't care if it's on a submarine. Put it leave the application wherever it serves the business, and we'll do the last millimeter integration so that the application doesn't need to be changed in most cases.
Well, I've got a question for you from the audience, and I hope this is a curveball because I'm going to catch you off guard on this one. Okay. So Bill wants to know, what happens to applications where we don't have access to the source code anymore?
That's actually really common. That's a great category of this type of application, is that you just don't quite know what's under the covers, or maybe the person who wrote it left, or things like that. We're actually really good at understanding how these patterns work. So through some collaboration, through some conversations with us, we can give you the tools to often get pretty far along that journey. And then we'll show that we can protect them even for those applications for sure. We think about these problems all day, every day. Our company is built on industry veterans that oftentimes built these kind of authentication authorization patterns. And so we can generally almost always help you with these kind of challenges. Good question.
This is great, because also what we're talking about here is you don't necessarily have to hire that perfect unicorn individual who knows everything there is to do. That you can really do this without touching the application. I know we say it over and over to reinforce that, but it's true.
Yeah, and really the way that I like to think about that is, if you have somebody that's truly that talented in your organization, have them invest in your innovation, have them invest in driving your business forward. Why would you want to take the most talented people in your organization to retire tech debt? That's kind of not a very sexy problem. And people who are truly that bright want to focus on those things that really move the needle for the organization. So let us handle those harder to reach applications, because that's what we do all day, every day.
That's great. And I think, of course, it just goes without saying, there's also this incredible speed thing that we've been able to do here, as opposed to that traditional path of rewriting an application, especially a complex or unknown source code. That could be a 6-month, year-long endeavor if you were actually forced to refactor it. And that's just for one new service. The next time a new service comes along, you've got to do it all over again. And what we're saying is modernize once, stay flexible forever.
That's exactly right. So the challenge that most organizations see today is that for these types of applications that are important for the business, but just written at a time before modern identity services were available, they have to generally work for months and spend tens of thousands of dollars to modernize the application. But then there's a new standard that's going to come up next year. 2 years from now. There's already some that are on the horizon that are going to be very powerful for organizations. So we think of identity as a treadmill. You can invest that months and tens of thousands of dollars and all those kinds of things per application if that's important to you, but then you're still on the treadmill because that next new protocol, that next new standard, you're going to want to do that. And guess what? You got to rebuild it again. It's kind of a challenge. So with an orchestrated approach, if you modernize it that one time, if you let us protect the application, we know those standards. The fabric knows all of those capabilities. So you don't have to keep doing this. You get off the treadmill.
That's a really great call out. As we thought about the direction from the White House here in the United States, that there's just been ongoing regulatory changes about requirements, for applications, depending on what industry you're in and such. So you just never know what the changes are going to be. And also, as we think about homegrown applications, you may be saying, well, gosh, I've only got one or two of these today. I think it's not that difficult for us. But what changes all the time is M&A. And as you start thinking about strategic changes that the organization goes through, you may overnight all of a sudden inherit a dozen homegrown applications from an organization you know nothing about.
That's very, very common that, organizations merge, they divest, all of these things happen in dynamic industries. And exactly right. You'll all of a sudden be responsible for a technology footprint that you're not familiar with, but you have to get rationalization over quickly. Orchestration is a great use case for all of that, because not only can we extend the protection into those hard to reach applications, we can make it easy for you to take the new company being acquired and rationalize those into your existing ecosystem almost trivially.
That's great. That's great. Well, we promised 2 recipes today. We put out 2 recipes and we did it in a matter of minutes. We certainly lived up to the expectations there. As our audience is thinking about next steps, they're like, okay, that was cool. I get this, but I really want to know more about how this pertains to my homegrown apps. Because remember, that's what we're talking about. It's my grandma's recipe for pie. It's very unique to us. Everyone's, certainly it is a unique custom application. Maybe they want to dig into this a little bit more. Can they talk to you directly about this?
Absolutely. That's what we're here for. We built an easy to reach platform if you want to go and start cooking yourself, mavericks.strata.io. You can sign up for a trial. We're happy to proctor you through it if you want some hand holding to better understand how the tool was built and why we built it the way that we did, or reach out to me directly. I love questions. And Rose, thank you for your question earlier. And for those who might be listening to this on YouTube, please reach out directly. We're always happy to help, because those little hard to reach applications that have that one little thing that makes them really hard, these are things we do all day, every day. So I'd be surprised if you stumped us, but give it a shot.
I love it. I love it. Well, and for our audience, we want to thank you for your time today. I know that it's very valuable that you're able to spend this time with us. We invite you to take a look at the Orchestration Kitchen Hub for past kitchen episodes that Chef Terry and I and some of our special guests have shot for other recipes that we've tackled together. And going forward, be sure to sign up for the next in our series that'll be coming just around the corner. So take a look at the Orchestration Kitchen Hub. Reach out to Chef Terry. Chef Terry, thank you for your time today as well. And without further ado, our audience, take care, enjoy, and we hope to hear from you soon.